Hello, all, and welcome to And Us Voices, where we gather some film friends to help us put the us in Movies and Us. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
We've found that movies can be more than just entertainment, but a way to connect more deeply with others in the world around us. We love hearing all the thoughts and opinions and takes from other movie watchers, so we invited a few of our friends to share with us today. In this episode, we will all be answering the question, what is the most heart-stopping scene in Jaws and why? This is really exciting because it's the 50th anniversary this year for Jaws, so what a great way to celebrate this milestone. After Sarah and I share our favorite scenes, you will hear from some of our film friends who are gracious enough to contribute to this episode. All right, so Sarah, let's dive in. Jaws, lots of heart-stopping scene candidates.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are so many great ones to choose from in this film, but I'm very curious to see what you pick. I'm fascinated to see if we picked the same one or if we will pick different heart-stopping scenes, because I know what I think is like the most heart-stopping, but it's curious to hear what other people think and what they picked for this.
Yeah. And like why that scene got their, adrenaline pumping. That's really fun. There's a lot of really great candidates in this one too, because there's so many big sequences that could be really, really awesome. Honestly, I don't know if anyone picked the opening, but I guess this is spoiler. Well, let's dive in. Sarah, what is your most heart-stopping scene in Jaws and why?
Well, now I'm curious. What is yours?
Well, I was about to give away that I did not pick the opening scene, but did you pick the opening scene?
Good. So I was about to be like, oh no, do I need to change mine last minute?
You did? Oh my gosh!
Pick the opening one. Yeah.
Wow, I'm so pleased because that was my second close option. I was like, that opening is so strong.
Yes.
That I hope someone picked it. Okay, I'm so pleased.
All right. Good. Okay. I was nervous because, like, I don't know, we've been podcasting together for so many years now. Like, yep. I feel like I can usually have a pretty good sense of like what has stood out to you. And I know you do that for me all the time too. Yep. So I was like, this scene to me, that opening with Chrissy's death is so strong, so terrifying. And I was like, I feel like this might be one that Jen could pick. So I
almost picked this one. That's so funny.
I'm glad that we went in different directions. This is satisfying.
Better for podcasting.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell me about why you picked this opening scene in Jaws as your most heart-stopping scene.
Oh, gosh. It's absolutely terrifying. I think is set up so well because at first it's this like fun teenage moment. They're going to go for a, I guess it's like sunrise swim together. And it's so silent to begin with. And it's just like Chrissy in the water having a fine time, just paddling around. It seems pretty serene and beautiful. And then all of a sudden, Bruce spots her and starts to do his thing. And her screams are so guttural and jarring and just like, I don't know, they hit you right in your core, and they last for so long. And she tries to get away. She's screaming for help. No one is around for miles. And I think what really sets this scene up to me to be the most heart-stopping is that whole scene ends with this really beautiful shot of that dude lying on the beach and the sun is starting to like rise, and it's very, very beautiful. And it's just that knowing that the one person who could have maybe helped her was just a few yards away and he was passed out. And like, it's so terrifying to go through all of that and realize that nobody was there to help her. And she was completely alone, even though this dude was just a little ways away. He was passed out drunk. And so I think for me, that combination and that ending shot really solidifies this as the most heart-stopping scene for me.
That's so good. Yeah, the scene is amazing. And you're right. There's obviously the experiential adrenaline of hearing her screams and knowing she's looking for help. But then there's almost that cognitive fear and thrill and hope that there's maybe he'll wake up in the final moment and be able to go and save her, and it never comes. And that eerie, super quiet shot of the water too, with the morning light hitting it, is so good because we just saw nearly that same wide shot of the water seconds earlier, and she's splashing and it's loud, and then all of a sudden it's quiet. And that silence with just the waves lapping up against the shore, just that quietness is so eerie. It's so terrifying because you know that there's a whole human that's just been drawn under the water by Bruce.
Well, and we know that because we watched it, but
Mm.
nobody else would know. Like,
Mhm.
if a random
So good.
bystander were to walk by at that moment when it's all idyllic and peaceful, they would just be like, "Oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful morning," not
Yeah.
realizing the horror that had just happened there. So I think it's that, like you said, it's that cognitive knowledge that
Mm.
there was this human being who was here, and now she's gone, and nobody knows.
Yeah.
And that is just, oh, it's so terrifying.
Yeah, that's so good, and it makes a great use of the water being the place where the deaths happen with a shark attack, because when murders happen on land, there's an easier way to be able to spot and find and dig up, like, evidence of what happened, but almost just a big, wide open sea, it's really easy to just have human beings truly disappear from shark attack, and I think that also it's a great use of the location and place for where these deaths are happening. Oh, it's so good.
Mhm. Yeah. Mystery and terror. What a way to start this film.
Mhm, mhm. What is also great about that scene too, actually, just while you mentioned that, is that we never see Bruce. It's
Mhm.
only the opening first few minutes, so we actually, like, we just hear the effects of it, but we don't see anything. We don't see even, like, a mouth that dips up out of the water for a little bit. There's nothing. We see her get drawn under. It's good.
Mhm. Yeah, I was thinking about that too, because, like, I mean, obviously, we know today that it's a shark and that it's Jaws and what's going to happen, but, I mean, outside of the shark being on the movie poster when this was out in theaters, like, if you had
Yeah.
somehow managed to avoid all of that and just walked into this movie not knowing what was happening, it would be a kind of a mystery of what's going on, like, what is in the water.
Mm.
So I love that we don't see him in this
Mhm,
scene. Like you said,
mhm.
it just creates that mystery and that terror, and, oh my gosh, you have to keep watching to find out what happens next.
This is such a great choice. Sets the tone for the rest of the film, truly, and
Mhm.
great filmmaking components coming together.
Alright, so what is your choice? Because my choice was your number 2, so what was your
Yes.
number 1? What won out for the most heart-stopping scene for you?
I I picked this scene because I remember while in our most recent watching this scene that I was genuinely, like, curled up into a ball as this scene was happening and felt the physical experience of my heart pounding and nearly stopping, and this is the Hooper cage scene
Oh,
in the second
yes.
half of the movie. Oh my gosh. This is so just heart pumping in every way. I think there's some things that I've thought about this scene a little bit more now that I'm no longer in the scene and can think about it a little bit more critically with my brain capacity, is the use of the bubbles in this scene. I think just it stands out to me so much. This happens a little bit later in the scene. It's when the climax of the scene is happening and we see Bruce coming in for the kill, and the amount of bubbles that are just rippling around the cage and the truly where the action is happening, where his mouth is, where Hooper's little legs are dangling. The fact that I can't see what's happening is actually really exciting, and the bubbles totally mask my ability to see. We often say that in big action sequences, as they're, our superheroes are going through buildings and car chases and whatnot. We often say that establishing a really strong sense of place so that we know exactly what is happening and where, and being able to see the punches and see the gunshots and see their locations adds to the adrenaline, adds to the feeling of the thrill. It's almost ironically the opposite in this scene because I can't see what's happening. I'm only left to imagine and wonder, like, does Hooper still have his legs by the end of this confrontation? And so the use of bubbles underwater I thought was genius in this sequence. And then zooming out a little bit more with the scene as a whole, it's really neat to see the progression of Hooper going from I've got a mission to no, my mission is actually survival now to even the open-ended nature of the ending of the scene where we just see him crouched below next to a rock at the bottom of the ocean, but we actually still don't know if he survived or not. So going from mission to survival to what's actually the verdict was really, really fun. We start the scene with, wondering if the cage is going to hold up. Then we establish, no, the cage does not hold up. Then we wonder, is Hooper going to get his spear syringe into the shark to complete his mission? No, that spear drops to the bottom of the sea. And then the big looming question is, does Hooper even survive or not? So I kind of love that the goal is constantly changing as the situation becomes more dire over the course of the scene too. Cognitively, that's really, really fun as well.
Ugh, this is such a good pick. Oh my gosh, it's such a tense moment. And I remember when we watched it the other day, I was I found myself trying to like move around to see like can I see like did the shark get him? And I was trying to like okay,
Yeah.
if I look at the TV from this angle, can I see that he survived? And I think that that's just such a testament to how riveting and just like visceral this scene is because you feel like you are there with Hooper in the ocean and you just want to make sure that he survived. And I love your point around the bubbles kind of obscuring our view. And I think that that's such a good point because that not knowing makes you wonder like, oh, did the shark get him? Like there were multiple times that I thought that Bruce got him, which he clearly didn't. But the film lets you think that and wonder, and that makes you so much more invested in this character to survive. We want him to live. Like screw the mission, Hooper, you just got to get out of here alive. And that not knowing helps create so much tension and stress in what is already a very stressful scene.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I think it also comes at a point in the film too where we've been on the boat for a long time. And so it is the right pacing moment for a death to happen too. So I think that's really neat. And obviously we get a subversion and we see that another character dies. But it cognitively you're kind of like, okay, they've been doing their thing trying for a while on the boat. If something big's going to happen and a character's going to die, this would be a great time for it. This is kind of that big emotional moment that could kind of push us into the back half of the film. And yeah, we get a subversion there. One other quick thing that the scene does that I really love is we initially see Bruce swim up and almost swim next to the cage at the beginning of the scene. And I love that we don't start with an immediate like boom attack. There's kind of this quiet like, oh no, the presence is here. And then he swims away and he swims into the hazy waters. And there's a great POV shot of from Hooper's angle. You're looking out into those hazy waters wondering, is he going to come back? And if so, where and how? And that anticipation I thought was really wonderful. And the way that long shot staring out into these hazy waters where you can see nothing. They really let that shot breathe so that we could build the like fear, we could build the suspense of that moment. So I love that we don't get an immediate like loud clang of Bruce, we get this silent, foreboding swim by into the haze. And then you're just left to wonder before we get the big boom that surely does come next.
And I love that that scene is like we're on Bruce's turf at this point in time. You know, like who Hooper has brought his protective cage, you know, so he didn't go into this completely unequipped, but he's in a very vulnerable spot because this is where Bruce excels and where humans don't. And we have seen that over the course of the film that when people are in the water and Bruce is around, bad things happen. And so I also love that like cognitive knowledge as well, that like, oh, Hooper is in a place where he shouldn't be. And Bruce can do kind of whatever he wants here, whereas Hooper is very limited. So that like vulnerability and just automatic sense of danger that Hooper is in, and then Bruce appears and starts wreaking havoc, and it becomes even more tense. But I was so aware of like, Hooper, my guy, maybe this isn't where you should be right now. And then we see, the chaos that ensues.
I love your point around us being on Bruce's turf because for a while we see that Bruce is near shore, and so it even though it feels very terrifying, still there's the familiarity and comfort and almost lifeline we have of like the beach and the town, and there's familiarity. But no, that we're not in the deep blue ocean; we're in the deep sea waters, and the the lack of anything to cling on to, anything to run back to, is also cognitively really fun too. And like you mentioned in our episode of Jaws, which came out just a couple of days before this, that whole second half of the film where we're just on this boat, almost claustrophobic, even though we're on the big wide ocean, but we're stuck here and there's nowhere to run to. That also adds, I think, to the thrill of this scene too. It's like there's nothing that's going to come and save them. They are out on their own, and we're now in Bruce territory. Yeah, it's so good.
I love how this film, and this shows up in both of our favorite or most heart-stopping scenes, is that sense of isolation. And this film plays with that so well, and showing just how terrifying it can be to be alone, and just the fact that these characters are by themselves and just, left up to the whims of our guy Bruce is terrifying. And so I love the way that Jaws really highlights that isolation, because it makes everything more tense and stressful.
Yeah, so good. So good. Man, what we two great choices, honestly. And I'm so excited to see what everyone else picks next as well. And why. I think there's just so many great sequences, like we mentioned in the movie, so many great filmmaking components coming together in a really magical way as well. So I'm curious to hear everyone else's analyses and thoughts and opinions about their scene picks. So we'll play the first segment now.
Hi everyone, it's Heather here. You can find me on all the socials at Heather J. Stewart, and also check out some of my guest appearances this year on the Revisionist Almanac 2016 episode. I was in Far, Far Away Films with a never-ending watch list, and of course I was delighted to join Jen and Sarah straight after the Oscars to do a bit of a debrief and share our thoughts. And also I've participated in a few collaboration episodes such as this one, and yeah, Jaws. So I have not seen this film in a hot minute, but nonetheless I knew exactly what scene I wanted to talk about and pose the question as whether or not this is the best jump scare ever in movies. Certainly up for discussion. And of course it is the Ben Gardner boat scene. What else? I'm sure I'm not the only person to mention this one. And whether it's because of the darkness, the score, the gradual build of suspense, the ongoing feeling of dread that you have throughout this film, or probably a combination of all of these elements, this scene is a masterpiece. Now, at the beginning, we don't fully see what Brody and Hooper are seeing. They're just shining the lights on the water. It's only gradually that bits are revealed to us, just a small bit at a time. And even before we see the shark bite in the boat, we do know that something is very wrong. And of course, Hooper's words like, "Oh, don't worry, nothing is going to happen. I'll be back in a few minutes." Of course, they're a little bit cliched because, we kind of know that something's going to happen here. But we don't really know what. In fact, I think we all think it's going to finally be the shark reveal. Because remember, we have not seen the shark up to this point. So he goes in, and this is where John Williams' score really does its magic. You hear a mix of the high-pitched jarring noises interspersed later on with deeper sound that's implying the shark is nearby. Again, reminder, we still have not seen this shark. And then the most jarring bit of all is when we have that reveal of the head. And yeah, I would love to see this with, I was reading some reviews, and somebody said, he went to see the film twice. And once, of course, he had the jump scare himself. The second time he went, he knew it was coming and he turned around just to watch the audience reacting. And of course, it was as expected. And it's just such a memory that I have from early days seeing this film, childhood memories of seeing this film, maybe a little bit too early. I don't remember when I saw it. Yeah, and it's just this masterful combination of all the elements of movie making that come together to make this such a heart-stopping scene. Now, what we could do as an experiment, we could also say, well, let's try watching it without the sound or without the images, just the sound, and see how we get, what kind of a reaction we get. And I think you'll see that it's the combination of all of them that come together to make this what it is. So yeah, that is my most heart-stopping, jaw-dropping, memorable scene from Jaws, which is in total an absolute masterpiece. But if I just have to pick that one scene, it is the Ben Gardner boat scene.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Dana.
And we're from the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast, the show that uses an alternative grading system to re-rank what the greatest movies actually are. You can find us on any of our socials at GMOAT Podcast, GMOAT Podcast, all one word, on Blue Sky, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and all of those good things, YouTube as well, for that matter. And we're here to talk about the 50th anniversary of Jaws, and specifically today, the most jaw-dropping scene in the movie. I don't know about you, Dad, but when I think of the most jaw-dropping scene of Jaws, ironically, I think of the 4th of July sequence at the middle of the movie. To me, that is the peak of this movie.
Yes, I think it kind of sets up the complete suspense that will carry you through the rest of the film.
I actually find it to be the bookend to the first half of the movie. When we've talked about it the previous two times when we've done it on our show, and we're going to be revisiting it again for its 50th anniversary here come July for the 4th of July episode that we're going to be doing, I've said this is a movie of two halves. The first half is all the horror, suspense, kind of Hitchcockian nature of what Jaws is supposed to be that I think for the most part, most people remember. And the second half is much more of an adventure movie. It switches tone. And to me, this is the pivot point in the movie where you get the climax of what is the true horror aspect of the film that you've seen already from a couple of different people getting attacked. You see the leg floating down to the bottom of the sea or the gully. I guess the word for it was estuary.
Yes.
That's severed off. The shark has clearly attacked somebody. It's going after children again, and specifically children that are close to Chief Brody. So you have that extra emotional impact. And it's got that absolutely fantastic crane zoom shot that is so famous that had been previously used by Hitchcock for Vertigo, but it is reused here that I think most people, if you're a film fan, know exactly what I'm talking about.
And the interesting thing about the whole scene is this was toned down. The original scene, I actually found the clips of the original scene. Some of it exists. Some of it's just stills. But they had the child actually built into a rubber body so that it was filled with both blood and actual organs, animal organs, so that when the Jaws, or when Bruce, as he was affectionately known, chomped down on him, they actually had built in sounds of bone crushing that they were going to play. And Paramount screened it and said this was so gruesome, people were getting ill and throwing up in the movie theater for the screening. So they said, you've got to tone this down or we're never going to get a PG-13, or at the time, I guess it was just PG rating.
Yeah, PG-13 didn't obviously come around until a later Spielberg film, and that would be Temple of Doom. But I would also say that there's a very great buildup in this scene. I think Spielberg, this is some of his best technical work, both mirroring a plot line with kind of the suspenseful nature of the Hitchcockian past. where you kind of get a fake out for the first half of the scene. The music's not playing, so it should have been a dead giveaway that the shark actually wasn't imminent. But the first half of the scene, you have that kind of fake attack, the cardboard fin in the water. Everybody's scrambling to get out of the water. They're mowing down women and children in the process because everybody's just shocked and afraid. And yet, by the end of it, the shark does attack. And it gives you this kind of 180-degree sense where, oh, okay, we're all right. And then no, we're not.
Well, what he did was he built it up, and the suspense was all going to the one place. And then you released it because it was fake. And then all of a sudden now you're in the middle of it, and it makes the horror even greater because you're not anticipating what's going to happen.
So this is number 2 on our current list of the greatest movies of all time. It had been number 1 for quite a number of, well, at least several years, and we will be revisiting this ourselves. So we look forward to seeing everybody there. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of And Us Voices, and a big thank you to Heather Stewart, Tom Duncan, and Dana Duncan for contributing to this episode. Be sure to check out their socials, connect with them more. They have a lot of really great commentary and thoughts about movies in general, so we'll include all of that in the show notes for you to connect more with those folks. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know what your pick for most heart-stopping scene from Jaws is. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at MoviesNestPod or on our website, andusmedia.co. Keep an eye on this feed because we will be back soon with a Movies and Us review of Ballerina. Super excited about that one. That'll be awesome. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.